You know, hindsight is 20/20. If you only rely on the record books and Wikipedia, the 1984 Pittsburgh Panthers football team looks like a joke. Actually, this Pitt team came into the season ranked third in the nation and were heavy favorites to win a national championship. This Sports Illustrated preview article explains why. Pitt was bringing back most of its offensive and defensive starters, including offensive tackle Bill Fralick, who was the unanimous choice for best offensive lineman in the country. By 1984, Pitt was 2 years removed from the days of Dan Marino tearing up teams like Rutgers. Despite 2 regular season losses, Pitt was invited to the Fiesta Bowl to close out the 1983 season, losing to a 3-loss Ohio State team on this late Hail Mary. Despite a loss to a pretty poor Ohio State team, Pitt somehow managed to convince everybody that it was one of the best teams in the country in 1984. I guess that's just how the college rankings worked back then. BYU, on the other hand, was riding an 11-game winning streak going into 1984. It was tied with Miami for the longest in the nation. BYU's only loss in 1983 was in its first game, when it lost to Baylor on this last-minute drive. However, BYU's 1984 team was missing legendary quarterback Steve Young, its best player in 1983. As you can imagine, there was a lot of questions about how BYU would play under untested sophomore quarterback Robbie Bosco. Sports Illustrated predicted that BYU would finish third in the Western Athletic Conference behind New Mexico and Hawaii. This might strike you as a little bit strange today, but that's what conventional wisdom was before the 1984 season. Before this game started, there was a bit of controversy in the Pittsburgh press. The day before the game, a campus newspaper published an interview with Bill Fralick in which he made numerous off-color remarks. Fralick, who was an outside Heisman Trophy candidate going into the season, was blasted in the media for his comments, particularly in Utah. And from a modern perspective, Fralick's comments really aren't all that shocking. He used some off-color language, sure, but the statement that really got him in hot water was saying that he liked sleeping with pretty girls, drinking beer, and playing golf. 1984 really was a different time. Nobody was really talking about BYU's offense. The question was whether BYU's defense could hold back Pitt's offensive attack. Pitt's defense, meanwhile, was a bit of a mystery. They were young and untried. The other bit that people tend to forget is that this was the first ever college football broadcast shown live by ESPN. Well, this is because the NCAA's monopoly on college football on television had just been broken. ESPN had occasionally shown college football games before this season, but they were all on tape delay. It was forced to show those on tape delay ostensibly to protect attendance at smaller schools. In a very real sense, this game marks the beginning of the modern era of college football on television. Believe it or not, this game didn't sell out, even though Pitt was ranked third in the country. Maybe it was the television effect. Now, the video copy we have comes from a KBYU rebroadcast of the original ESPN telecast. It's the same one you can find at BYU TV for free, and it's actually incomplete. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any other versions. Pitt received the opening kickoff, but was forced to punt right away. And that brought up BYU's first play of the 1984 season, which surprisingly enough was an echo of the last play of its 1983 season. Steve Young's college football career ended in style with this flea flicker halfback pass to himself for the game-winning touchdown. It was a gutsy call from a gutsy quarterback. BYU ran the exact same play to start 1984, except that the halfback found a man wide open down the field. However, BYU couldn't score at the beginning, and Pitt's excellent offensive line helped open up its running game. An early BYU interception stopped Pitt's attack before the Panthers could score. The first quarter ended up scoreless. Early in this game, pass-happy BYU relied on a number of surprise running plays by running back Leke Hemuli to gain yardage. And Bosco started to show some poise under pressure. Now here was the first controversy of the game. Was Klosowski in bounds? He was ruled out. In the end, BYU settled for a field goal from kicker Lee Johnston to go up 3-0. A few minutes later, Pitt were victims of a very questionable out-of-bounds call. Pitt quarterback John Congemi then started to pick BYU's defense apart. Pitt's drive ended, however, when BYU kept them out of the end zone on this 4th and goal play. Personally, I think he got over the line. Later, at the start of the 3rd quarter, the Pitt secondary welcomed Robbie Bosco to college football with this pick. You know, as well as BYU wound up playing in 1984, Robbie Bosco really doesn't impress me all that much. This is not the only poor pass that you're going to see from him in this game, let alone this season. He was no Jim McMahon or Steve Young, that's for sure. In fact, Bosco was picked off again on the very next drive.
Bosco leads a big one. Over the middle, got a man there. Kozlowski intercepted again. Out of the backfield is Tinsley.
And it didn't take long for Pitt to score again, putting them up 14-3 early in the 3rd quarter. That's when BYU started having good luck. This interception started things off. That led directly to this run by Heimuli to make it a 14-9 game. BYU went for 2, but Kozlowski was ruled out of bounds yet again, even more controversy. With that 14-9 lead heading into the 4th quarter, it looked like Pitt was in control. And that's when Robbie Bosco started to show up.
Right back to the air lane. Bosco, plenty of time. Bosco with room. Now Bosco fires to the man. It's the tight end Mills. He's up to about midfield.
This was the very next play.
First down the 50-yard line. Bosco again with plenty of time. Bosco all day he's got. Bosco being chased. Now Bosco throws, and it is caught on a comeback by...
After a 15-yard penalty for a really vicious clip, Bosco found Kozlowski for this huge gain.
Bosco fires downfield to Kozlowski at the 20. Kozlowski's got a first down inside the 10-yard line.
BYU was in scoring range and was flagged here for illegal use of hands on 3rd down. Pitt decided to decline the penalty, forcing BYU to kick a field goal. This field goal made it a 14-12 game with about half a quarter left.
And it is perfect through there, and Brigham Young is pulled.
Now this is the play that likely ended Pitt's season. John Congemi wound up being injured pretty badly on this play. Meanwhile, it really didn't seem like Bosco had it in him to come back to win this game. And this is where things start to get really weird. After a BYU punt, Pitt ran just like they were supposed to. The Panthers got a quick first down. But then, inexplicably, Pitt decided to pass. I guess they wanted to catch BYU's secondary playing too far up, but it didn't work. Pitt ran here for a good gain. But then Pitt was caught short on 3rd down, forcing a punt. With 3rd and inches, BYU called on Heimuli once again. And then Bosco showed off his own running ability. The big play came seconds later on 3rd and 4 from about the 50-yard line.
Bosco down the middle. Then he's got Haysbert down there. Haysbert's got it. He's going to score a touchdown for Brigham Young.
Bosco then scored the 2-point conversion by himself to make the score 20-13. John Cummings came in at quarterback for Pitt for Congemi, who was injured, and Cummings made this crucial throw over the middle to give Pitt another chance. And then came this passing interference call.
1 minute, 20 seconds to go. Here's Cummings. Cummings going for the ball. Downfield, and it is Wallace incomplete. Pass interference call.
Now, one thing you have to realize is that the passing interference rule changed right at the start of the 1984 season. Passing interference calls now resulted in 15 yards from the original spot, not that the ball be placed at the spot of the foul. In this case, the ref was confused. Pitt was given the ball at the BYU 35, not the 30 like it should have been. BYU broke up this first down play.
Pull this one out of the fire. Here's Cummings.
Kyle Morrell, one of BYU's greatest defensive players, made a big play to break up the second down pass. And then Pitt decided to throw right up the heart of the field on 3rd and long and wound up short of the crucial first down. On 4th and 4, Cummings couldn't get a throw off, and that was the end of the game. It was an upset, no doubt about it, and the Pittsburgh papers blamed the loss on the inept offense. BYU passed for an amazing 363 yards, coming from behind to win a game that it really should have lost. Well, after watching and analyzing this game, I really think it's more a case of Pitt blowing it than BYU winning with skill and dominance. But then again, I might be wrong. What do you think?